Coming up on the show, Fingers and I discuss the shootings that took place in Baton Rouge, Minnesota, and Dallas, bomb-wielding robots, unnecessary laws that result in more police-civilian interactions, and we ponder, are we ever going to have this national conversation we keep having conversations about having? We, of course, have to talk about FreedomFest because it's only a week away. And then Jason Pye from FreedomWorks joins us to talk about civil asset forfeiture and criminal justice reform. Remember to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, and for you Android users, you can find us on Stitcher, TuneIn, and SoundCloud. If you forget all of that, you can find everything about the show at enoughalreadypodcast.com. Okay, enough already. On with the show.
So, Mrs. Malloy went to the Antiques Roadshow today. And brought a clock down to the Antiques Roadshow that was my grandmother's. It's a mantle clock.
Okay.
And I knew the date it was produced. It was made in 1940. And it's really not anything spectacular to look at. It's very plain. Wood clock. You have to, you got to open up the back door, and it's got a key, and you got to wind up whatever the hell. I don't use it. It's broken, but it's old. Did a search for that clock on Google like 3 or 4 years ago, and at the time, I thought by what I saw on Google that it was worth anywhere from $150 to $300. Back in, I'd say 2010, I'm guessing now that I think about it. So 2016 money, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of what, $250,000?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I was hoping for. Ended up being worth $500.
Nice. Did they sell it?
Oh, no. No.
Oh, it's all just to get the appraisal.
Right. Have you ever seen Antiques Roadshow?
Unfortunately, I think it's one of the most boring things ever.
It is awful. I always thought it would be funny to have a fake appraiser there.
Oh, they did that themselves.
Oh,
well, there was a scam going on there. Yeah.
I'll have to check that out on YouTube, see if it's on there, because I would think that would be a scream, just have someone up there that had absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
Well, and the other thing is it's hard to know what you're looking at as well. So like I had done this recently. I'd read a book, and I can't remember what the heck it was called, so apologies, but it was about the FBI art crime unit. And the guy that ran it was run out of Philadelphia, actually. He ended up crossing paths with the Antique Roadshow guys and caught onto their scam. Like, they were buying stuff real cheap and then turning around and doing, they would lie to people about how much stuff was worth.
Oh.
And then they would buy it up and sell it and all kinds of stuff. But I remember when I was looking for that, because I think you and I had this conversation before maybe, but I found this story. It's from 2016 from the AV Club website. Mm-hmm. Antiques Roadshow accidentally appraised a high school art project at $50,000. They called it bizarre and wonderful, assigning it a late 19th or early 20th century make. It was actually made in an Oregon high school art class in the 70s. Oh, man.
See,
yeah.
I thought it'd be fun to either, if you could rig it to where you had an appraiser who was actually a performance artist, some actor or something, improv guy who didn't know what he was doing, just pull stuff out of his ass to make, making things up. I thought that would be fun. Or if I had a ticket to go to the Antiques Roadshow, I think I would bring something like my Keurig coffee machine.
Just be an ass.
Yeah. I don't know. Was in the apartment that I just rented.
Your original iPod?
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
Those are actually, if you have an iPod that never out of the packaging, they're going for tens of thousands of dollars.
You gotta be kidding me.
Nope. People are collectors of that stuff.
Take a Nintendo Wii.
Yeah, you need the original. Yeah, old iPods are selling for as much as $90,000. That's a headline from 2014 on Mashable. Nuts.
Wow. I wish I had the kind of money to burn. I mean, what are you going to do with it? Just put it up on a bookshelf? Look at this.
But would you burn it on that?
No.
Right.
I'd go to Vegas.
Right. Of course, because that's a better use of your money.
Well, what are you going to enjoy more, Tracy Connors? Blowing $90,000 in Vegas or blowing $90,000 on an original iPad or iPod?
I would go with Vegas.
Yeah,
if I had to blow it. But I wouldn't blow $90,000 on anything.
Even if you had like Bill Gates money?
I don't think so. I don't think Bill Gates would even buy that. I think that's a terrible investment.
You never know. 5 years from now, it may be worth $120,000. You need to diversify your portfolio by buying used electronics, Tracy.
No, they're not used. They have to be in the box.
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Factory sealed.
Yeah,
so it's like gone from collecting action figures in the original packaging to collecting electronics in their original packaging.
Nerds.
Yes.
I don't know. What do you want to talk about this week? I mean, obviously, the big story is what has happened, all the shootings between the shooting in Minnesota, the shooting in Louisiana, and then, of course, the ambush in Dallas. It's really, really been a depressing week, and I look around, and this doesn't look like the country I grew up in.
No, and there doesn't seem to be any signs of improvement on the horizon.
No, because you have a bunch of people on the national stage who claim to be leaders who continue to divide us as a country, and it's in their best interest to keep us divided.
Absolutely.
Today, Saturday, by the way, we're recording this. Hillary came out today and talked about how white people need to. Where's the story I had? I just had it open. White people need to. Let's see. Hillary Clinton blames white cops for deaths of young black men, and immediately starts pandering. And you see that in the Jesse Jacksons of the world going down there. Everybody needs to be divided for these people to be able to continue to have some sort of power. And while I do agree that white people have to recognize that black people have a problem with the police and are justified in their anger with what has been going on in this country, at the same time, it's like this kind of rhetoric really doesn't bring us together. It just continues to tear us apart. And I think of a friend of mine that I used to work with in central Indiana. He was, at the time, this was like 15 years ago, I'm guessing he was 30, 31 years old, black, and he drove a Lexus. And he said he had to sell the Lexus because he was getting pulled over twice a week.
It's insane.
So there definitely is a problem, but I don't hear many solutions. I just see a lot of finger pointing. There isn't really this national conversation that people keep talking about that we have to have on a race. It's more of a monologue.
Yeah, well, no, it's mostly a conversation about how we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You late for something?
For a conversation.
Oh, there you go. Let's get it started.
No, but you're right. It's all talk.
Yeah, and I genuinely want to understand what both sides or maybe there are more than two sides of this story, are, and what we can do to change it. And then you've got Hillary out there saying, I'm going to spend, one of my first things when I become president is we're going to spend $1 billion. Oh my God, I have the direct quote somewhere because it's so ridiculous. And I was just like, oh, this sounds like they're going to produce a bunch of white papers, like hand over money to Think Progress and the Brookings Institute, $1 billion, to come up with some phony baloney scheme to retrain police officers. When it's, in my opinion, the best things we can do are get rid of stupid little infractionary laws. We live in an overly litigious society.
Yes.
Is it worth it to pull somebody over because you have a taillight out?
Of course
Honestly. Not. How harmful is that? If I can figure out that it's not a motorcycle and it's a car, that's all I really need to know, is to get how to get around somebody on the highway. It's not that dangerous. So
well, it is if you're looking down at your phone.
Right.
Which also is against the law, and of course that really is unenforceable unless you get in an accident, and then they can check your phone. But it's not like when you're they have seatbelt checkpoints. It's really hard to tell if someone is looking down at their phone or if they're looking at the radio or looking at the sandwich they're about ready to pick up and stuff in their mouths. Right. So these aren't enforceable laws. But yeah, you're right. It's like, is it really worth it to be pulling people over for minor infractions like that? Or I know I have a cousin who is a police officer, and he would tell me the things that he would pull people over for if he suspected that they were drunk. Mm-hmm. Or something hanging from the mirror. Yeah, it obstructs your view, or apparently it can be, depending on the state you're living in right now, illegal to have that little thing that will go around your license plates that are like from car dealers or something, some sort of advertisement, or the little trim piece that goes around that you're not supposed to have anything that blocks the license plate in any way, shape, or form. You can get pulled over for that. It's insane.
Well, I mean, you can get stopped for jaywalking.
Yes.
Which is crazy. As long as you make it to the other side of the street safely and there are no cars coming, what's the harm there? And they'll give you a ticket.
Can you imagine having a police officer stop you for jaywalking?
No. And I mean, the East Coast is a totally different thing than the West Coast. They enforce that much more heavily on the West Coast. And so everybody respects it. And as an East Coaster going out there, you're just like, why is everybody standing here on the side of the street when there's no car in either direction, waiting for a little signal to change from a stoppy hand to a walkie man?
But, Tracy, you really shouldn't be jaywalking. It's dangerous.
Unless a car is going 200 miles an hour, which is also illegal, and way more illegal than me crossing the street, way more dangerous, then it's silly.
But there should be a law.
Well, there is.
Yeah, and it should be enforced. That's one. If someone dies as a result of jaywalking, then you're going to have. We need increased enforcement of jaywalking laws, and then you'll have cops on patrol looking for jaywalkers, writing tickets. It's insane. I mean, I was 3 years ago. I get on a kick every once in a while to just look up stupid laws.
Yes.
And in New York City, this may have been 5 years ago, within 2 weeks, 2 pedestrians had died because they were they were joggers, and they were listening to their iPods, and they had earbuds in, and they ran into traffic. And so you had someone in city government there in New York City wanting to pass an ordinance saying that you couldn't have headphones in while you were walking in New York City.
Were they going to also preclude deaf people from walking? I'm serious. Having headphones in does not preclude you from turning your head in one direction or another and looking for cars.
And how do you enforce that?
You don't. You only use it when you want money at the end of the month.
Right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, are you going to, they have, it's different on the East Coast, and it's different in places like New York City where you actually have cops walking up and down the street. But can you imagine a cop driving down the street, seeing a jogger with headphones in and slamming on his brakes and getting out of the car and waving that jogger down to write that person a ticket because they have headphones in? It's crazy.
I can picture it. Well, it's like, speaking of stupid laws, I don't know if this is passed yet because I just found it. It's this article's from March 27th of this year on Mashable. Texting while walking could soon be illegal in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing.
Absolutely insane. It's insanity that what happens? One person dies, and then the family gets together, and they feel like they have to do something. So then they start harping on lawmakers to come up with something that, like that, and then they'll name it after the person, the bill after the person that died.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? There was a case in Indiana where a child was not properly belted into his child seat, his car seat, by a babysitter. And the babysitter got in an accident, the kid dies. So then the family starts in on lawmakers to try to make the child seat law, the car seat law, much stricter, and made so that the age limit was lowered on the car seats. The car seat regulations were changed based on an accident where the babysitter didn't properly latch the kid into the car seat. And everybody walks away going, "Yo, we really did something today, and we did it for the children." It's like, what? The kid wasn't belted in properly.
It was operator error.
Yes.
You can't make a law that stops people from being dumb.
Right.
It's going to happen. But no, we're going to spend $1 billion. Here, I found the quote. She said, "In my first budget, I will commit $1 billion to find and fund the best training programs." So hear that, find and then fund
right.
the best training programs, support new research, and make this a national policing priority. That's all it takes. It's just a little bit more training. No, how about we take some of these dumbass laws off the books? Because these things happen when people have interactions with the police.
Right.
Right? This idea, and I don't know that anybody believes it, but you hear it from time to time, that cops are going out of their way just to find people and shoot them. Just random drive-bys whenever they want to is absurd. But the reason these things happen is because you have civilian officer interactions. Why do you have those? Because they're enforcing the laws written by the politicians. And that's always been my gripe, too. Not that I want to see anybody getting shot and killed, mind you. But you're shooting at the wrong people. The cops are just doing what they're told. Not that that's any excuse, really. I'm not going with the Nuremberg defense, but they're not the ones that make up these dumbass laws. That's who you should be angry at.
What, that guy that got choked out in New York City?
Eric Garner?
Yeah, wasn't it for selling CDs on the street?
No, Lucy cigarettes.
Oh, Lucy, that's okay.
No, I believe the guy in, was it Baton Rouge? Alden Sterling. Uh-huh. He was the first one to die this week at the hands of the police. He was selling CDs outside of a convenience store. Yeah. Just dumb little laws. I mean, just wait till they roll up on some little kids selling lemonade.
Right.
And shut them down. I mean, I'm shocked. On my street down at the beach, these kids have like a professional lemonade setup. It's so cute. And I wanted to go up and be like, call me when the cops come and hassle you about this.
It'll happen. And you know why it'll happen? A lot of cops, most cops are pretty cool. But somebody will call and complain.
Yes.
That's what usually happens. There'll be some old biddy that will be upset that the kids are out there selling lemonade. She'll make a call to either the city or she'll call the police, and then a squad car will have to show up and terrify 8-year-olds by telling them that they have to shut down their lemonade stands.
Well, it's also the FDA hasn't had time to approve the lemonade, so we don't know if it's safe.
That's right.
They're not charging sales tax, so That's 2 infractions right there. I'm sure that there is some kind of a mandated temperature at which the lemonade cannot rise above or drop below.
Right.
I'm sure that if those children are wearing flip-flops or sandals, that constitutes an OSHA violation because they must have closed-toed shoes in a workplace. They're not permitted to have that set up on their front lawn.
Right. I'm sure it's not zoned for that.
No, none of these are zone commercial. This is all just residential.
That's right. And then you know darn well that these kids aren't going to be paying taxes on the income they receive from the lemonade sales.
Well, and they're also not even old enough to work.
Yeah.
They're in violation of child labor laws. So I know that all sounds funny, but that's a point of entry that the cops have to come and harass you. Like, we all common sense wise know that's just silly. These are little kids. It's exciting for them. They're learning how to run a little business, how to make money, how to do sales. It's a good thing. But at any time, somebody could just, like you said, call and be whiny just because they're annoyed. And then it all goes to hell.
You see it too. It'd be one thing if they only do it once during the summer, but they do it every weekend. It's always some one piece of shit neighbor that has to call and bitch that some 7-year-old is out there. Oh, they sell. I wouldn't mind it for every once in a while, but it's way too often. It's like, how does this affect your life? You don't even leave your house.
Right. You're sitting there with binoculars at your front window all day, lady, ordering takeout or delivery.
Oh, my God.
But that's the problem. Cut me in on that $1 billion you're going to spend. We could use that to go through every state's law books and just get rid of silly little laws.
Well, and it's funny. This whole experience that I've had in the past 7 years of becoming a podcaster, writer, has really opened my eyes. I would never think for a second back, 10, 15 years ago, when a proposal like this is thrown out there as a trial balloon, that money is really just going to political allies. We're going to do a study, and it'll be a lefty think tank. And people, Hillary's friends will stuff their pockets full of government money based on this study. And it'll come, some white paper will come out 3 years from now. It'll be completely useless. They'll have some sort of press conference. Mm-hmm. And then that paper will go in a desk and we'll never hear about it again.
Well, the Podesta brothers are the perfect example. That's their Think Progress. But guess what? Now one of them's the chairman of Hillary's presidential campaign.
Funny how that works.
Isn't it? And yet the IRS holds up a whole bunch of 501c3 organizations from getting processed because they have Tea Party or Patriot in their name. And Think Progress is a C3, just so everybody knows.
Well, Michael Walsh has been all over this, and Michael's not the only one. We had Pat Caddell on last week talking about how this is really starting to look like 1968. And
yes, I asked him if it was approaching that level, and he said it's very, very close. We're not there just yet. And this was in the wake of Dallas on Thursday night. He and I had a brief text conversation.
All the chaos that went on in the late 60s and in 68 brought Richard Nixon.
Yes.
And you're seeing today, like I said, Hillary comes out and the first thing she's talking about is, how whites need to understand what it's like to be black, and we need to retrain police officers. And there does need to be a conversation about how police officers engage the public, and I understand that, but there's a time and a place for this discussion, and I don't know if it's right after what happened in Dallas. But
my thing is the DOJ has been involved in these local police departments now for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
What the hell have they been doing?
Yeah.
It's it's the same thing. It's like the crumbling roads and bridges argument.
Right.
We just need to do roads and bridges. It's just like, well, we just need to retrain officers. Okay, what's stopping you?
Right.
And are you going to force them to enforce more stupid little laws in order to pay for the money to funding necessary to retrain them?
But this is the rhetoric you're getting from the left, and I opened up Drudge today, and the headline from Trump's side of it is, "Make America Safe Again."
Yeah, it's that simple. Well, and he put out a really decent statement actually. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. In the wake of this, and I agree with what Gingrich said, and it's partially what Hillary said. You and I, like, I will own up to this. I cannot understand what it's like to be black and to have that kind of animosity towards cops. I have my own animosity towards them.
Right.
But I've never been randomly pulled over or stopped on some BS rationale to just be harassed.
Right.
So I don't know what that's like. And I also didn't grow up. Leon Wolf actually had a really decent piece over at Red State kind of laying this out and saying, hey, conservatives and other assorted right-wing types, you have to try to understand this perspective a little bit more and stop being immediately dismissive and stop getting on the side of the cops right away. And I totally agree with that.
Well, I just don't understand. And again, I have family members who were police officers. I respect that job and how hard it is. But having said that, they're an arm of the government. And
yes.
I thought that we had a natural suspicion of government as conservatives. Well, I'm sorry. With the kind of power that a police officer has, you also have to be watchful of how they use that power. And
Absolutely.
not always automatically knee-jerk react on the side of the police. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's kind of grotesque. So I found Leon's article, and he had a really interesting stat in there. Let me dig for it because it's rather long. He had listed the number of, since 2000, New York Police Department officers have shot and killed about 180 people. Only 3 of those officers were even indicted for anything, and only 1 was convicted for a non-jail time offense. So he said, and these statistics are fairly typical of the nation at large, so reasonable people can disagree about the prevalence of police brutality in America and to the extent to which race plays a factor in it. And I don't think reasonable people can disagree that excessive police force is punished way less often than it actually happens. And that's the kind of problem that leads to people taking up guns and committing acts of violence. I agree. You know, we're out bitching this week that Hillary Clinton's being held to a different standard than anybody else would, and yet we allow this stuff to go on with police officers.
Right.
And it's a combination, politicians will protect them, and their police union protects them, and the deals that are cut between the police unions and the cities are all handled by Democrat politicians.
Yes.
So this is what I'm saying, like, direct your anger at City Hall, not at the FOP. It's the wrong way. You're going after the wrong people.
But
they're just their henchmen.
But it's mirroring 1968. Nixon came out and was going to be the law and order president.
Yeah.
And I think if this continues, it's going to be a long, hot summer. Cleveland is just a couple of weeks away for the Republicans and their convention, and then you've got Philadelphia right after. And people are talking about what a mess Cleveland's going to be. I think Philadelphia is going to be much worse than Cleveland. I've
been saying that for a year now.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is going to burn.
I mean, and that town better than most. Are the cabbies in Philadelphia still talking that they're going to strike during the convention? Have you heard anything more about that?
I haven't seen anything about that, but there's a problem with our wonderful public transportation system. They bought all these trains, and then there's some problem with like an axle or the undercarriage. Oh, here we go. Except that repairs might not even be possible on these trains. So there's a cracked part on the manifold or something like this. I don't understand. I read some article with it. It had a whole diagram of what the hell's wrong with it. So SEPTA's general manager, and SEPTA is like that's an acronym for Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority. The cracks that force more than 100 transit companies, most advanced cars out of service, may not be fixable. So like all the regional rail lines are screwed, which is going to mean traveling into and around the city is going to be a nightmare. So it's going to be overloaded with cabbies who are mad about Uber and all that stuff. So yeah, It's just going to be a mess.
I just don't. And this is where we're really bad at stuff and messaging. You have the problems with your public transportation system in Philadelphia. The metro in Washington, D.C. is a complete disaster right now. And for some reason, our side is never does a very good job of highlighting that the government is responsible for this, and they're doing a horrible job managing it. I mean, the idea that train they ordered the wrong. You said they ordered the wrong part?
No. They had a whole bunch of brand new trains, and there was some kind of manufacturing defect in all of them.
Oh, okay. But still.
So but they spent billions, I'm assuming, if not more than that, on these new trains, and they're jacked up. And now they're unfixable. And so what they're going to do is they're going to waste a whole bunch of money trying to fix them, and then they're just going to scrap them. Yeah, but who knows? I don't remember how long they had these things on the tracks. We're just lucky that there wasn't a major accident.
Yeah. I mean, did you see a few weeks ago in D.C. where the one metro station flooded because it rained too hard, too fast? And people are trying to walk up the stairs, and it's looking like Niagara Falls as this water comes rushing down the stairs, and people are trying to get around the train in waist-high water.
Oh, my God. No, and how often have you been to D.C. and gone into the metro and all of the escalators are broken?
Yes. Which
That's
is
crazy.
A real nightmare at DuPont Circle.
Yes.
I don't know if you're familiar with a DuPont Circle stop, but my gosh, that's like going down, 6 stories to get down to the bottom of the stairwell, or, if you're
walking
really
up, you need a Sherpa.
Up, oh my God. It's like the Price is Right game where
they set up water stations. No, it's a nightmare, and they can't even get that stuff to run. So these are things that are in people's faces, and yet they cannot be exploited for political gain.
It's unbelievable, and this happens all the time, and so many of our fellow Americans say, you know what? They need to run our healthcare system.
Yeah, they need to run everything.
They can't even get a choo-choo train from point A to point B without a problem. Unbelievable.
Oh, man. This is going to be a fun couple of weeks.
Yeah, but going back to Dallas, I don't know. It came out, and I haven't really seen too much of this story regarding the gunman who mowed down these 5 police officers in Dallas. Did you see what kind of weapon he had?
I don't know if that's been discussed just yet. All we keep hearing is military style weapons.
Saw a story, and unfortunately I don't have it in front of me, but CBS reported that the rifle he used was a 70-year-old Soviet rifle.
Oh, badass.
So it wasn't one of these modern semi-automatic weapons that the left goes absolutely apeshit about. It was a 70-year-old rifle.
Well, I assume it's still semi-automatic.
Yeah, it's semi-automatic, but
it's not an AR-15.
No, it's not yeah, there was sad trombone when they found out it wasn't an AR-15. But it was a 70-some-odd-year-old Soviet-made rifle.
That's interesting.
And it was clear if it, that night. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I was really surprised. I guess I shouldn't be surprised more. Surprised is the wrong word. Disgusted is probably the better word. To see fairly quickly after it happened, the media was showing video of the shooter actually mowing down a cop right on the street. And it was clear before the identity of the shooter was released that this guy had some sort of military training. Mm-hmm. Just the way he approached the police officer and then ended up shooting him. Though it looked like there were, This may shock you, Tracy. I am not a former military member.
But people are constantly thanking you for your service.
That's right. But I know I never served this country, but you could tell by the way he was, approaching the police officer that he had to have some sort of. This just wasn't just some slack-jawed yokel who had a gun. This was someone who had some sort of training. But the idea that he had this old rifle, that was a surprise.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like he had an arsenal at his house.
Yeah.
So, he was National Guard and then actually deployed, I guess.
Yeah, in Afghanistan. My question to you, Tracy, is, and I'm not going to shed a tear that this dirtbag was killed. How do you feel about him being killed by a robot?
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about the militarization of police, so this is another fun toy we didn't know that they had.
Yeah, apparently, they were able to send a bomb his way via a robot, and that's what killed this dirtbag. And
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know I don't know how comfortable I feel about robots being used to kill perps. We're definitely venturing into uncharted territory now. It's one thing we've got these unmanned drones, flying overseas, but this is on U.S. soil, and it's a robot.
Yeah, it's a little bit nutty.
I don't know. I mean, I want the police to be safe, but this is. Wow, I'm wondering. I wonder if this is going to start a conversation after we get past this about the role of robots on U.S. soil in the future.
It's possible. I mean, we've got so many conversations we have to have. It may take a while to get around to.
We've got a list.
The death robots. Yeah.
Yeah. It really is RoboCop.
It is. I mean, I don't know. I keep picturing that junkie robot. Do you remember it from, I think it was last summer, that wasn't technically a robot. It was just like a bucket with a speak and spell attached to it that people were moving across the country.
Yeah.
Like it had to rely. And then it got to Philadelphia and someone beat it up. And that was the end of it. And it had like rubber glove hands. It's like, it's not a robot. It's got rubber gloves for hands. Get over yourselves. Yeah, that's what I picture, that thing delivering a bomb to him.
I kept thinking of Dirty Harry.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever see Dirty Harry?
No, but I'm familiar with the concept and some of the lines.
Dirty Harry?
No.
Oh, wow. I believe it was the original Dirty Harry movie. He was tracking a killer, and the guy tried to kill Harry and his partner using a little car, like a remote control car with a bomb attached to it. So he was like trailing Dirty Harry in his car with this remote control, little tiny car with a bomb on it. I thought, well, geez, they were doing that in the movies 40 years ago. Except it was a perp trying to kill a cop, and now it's flipped. We flipped the script. That's what we did, Tracy. We changed the game. And now killer robots.
I don't know. Why can't they use a tranq dart?
Right?
And where was this robot bomb? Oh, I guess you couldn't have used it on the gorilla because it had the kid with it. But to me, I would rather take that guy alive. But I understand that you can't. So
he was prepared to die and take as many cops with him as he possibly could. So
yeah, I mean, it's gruesome. All the video that exists is just craziness. But to me, the most interesting part of it at first was watching how the coverage broke.
Yeah.
Because I got an alert like, hey, turn on Fox, like something's going down in Dallas. And so I turn on Fox. It's about 9:05, I think, p.m., this says. And that's when I started hitting you up. And I was like, uh-oh, something's going down. And they have a Chiron up. They've already piped into a local feed. And they're saying that there have been shots fired at the protest in Dallas. And that's all we know right now. We think that there might have been cops shot. So I flip over to MSNBC and CNN because I want to see if they've also gone to this. And guess what I find? Nope. Nope, not at all. CNN is busy interviewing the family members of the man that was killed by the police in Minnesota. Okay. Maybe they don't know yet. And I can't remember what the heck MSNBC was talking about. Oh, they were down on the ground embedded with the protesters in New York City. Mm-hmm. So I flip back to Fox because I want to know what the hell's going on. And every 10 minutes or so, I check in with the other two. Still not covering it. I think it took CNN a full half an hour, if not 35 minutes, to even put up a chyron that said there have been officers shot in Dallas. And by that point, Fox had already said, it's multiple officers shot. They're at the hospital right now, fully up to date. MSNBC is carrying the same local feed now as Fox. This is like 9:35. Finally, CNN picks it up around 9:40. It's stunning to me. I'm like, anybody that's sitting here watching this has no idea that this has been going on for 40 minutes.
And the thing that was really something about that too was, and again, the way journalism is changing now because of all the citizen journalists out there with their cell phones being able to record this stuff and stream it live in many cases. There was video that I was seeing on Twitter that it made Dallas sound like a war zone. And I'm watching this video and CNN isn't even covering it yet.
No, it's crazy. And I'm sitting here, you're at work.
Yeah.
And you've figured this out. And I'm sitting in the living room being like, I know more about what is going on in Dallas right now than anybody in the control booth at CNN. Either that or they know as much as I do, but they don't think it's as important as listening to Van Jones and Charles Blow talk to Don Lemon.
It makes you wonder if
unconscionable
in the control booth they're saying to themselves, "Oh shit, we got to cover this." Maybe hopefully it'll all die down. We don't even have to go to it. Yeah,
hopefully they're just over exaggerating. Just Fox thinks that all these cops could potentially be dead, and then the death toll kept going up and up and up, and I'm like, my God, somebody at CNN needs to get fired over this.
Yeah.
For not immediately covering it. Because if it was the opposite and say that there was another live Facebook video about somebody getting shot by a cop, which is what kicked off a lot of this, I think. The shooting that happened in Baton Rouge was partially videoed, but the one that happened in Minnesota to Castile was a lot more visceral. I mean, it was in the car. He's right there dying on camera. If something like that had gone down, CNN would have cut away and gone right to it.
This is another thing that's bothering me about, and I know I'm starting to sound like a leftist, but one of the things that has been bothering me about that shooting up in Minnesota, I want to, if there were body cams on the police officers, I want to see that footage.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on. I don't care if, Castillo, is that his name, who got shot?
Yes. Philando Castile.
Yeah,
Castile.
I don't care what his police record is.
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference to me whatsoever.
I don't care if he has a couple misdemeanors on his record. If he was told to reach for his license and registration, like his girlfriend said, and when he reached for his license and registration, he started to get filled with lead, that's a problem. And his police record doesn't matter.
Correct.
But I'm seeing on our side. Well, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, don't mean to say our side.
No, he was seceded fingers.
Yes, but I'm seeing from some sites on the right, they want to. It's like they're justifying the fact that this guy got mowed down because he had prior run-ins with the police. I'm sorry, it's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned.
And I kind of agree. But I also think there's something else that we can all do. And I'm sure there are going to be people that are angry at me for saying this, but I think it's fairly clever. We all know that hands up, don't shoot didn't happen. At least you and I know this. But you still, when you watch these protests, they're still chanting that. So from now on, just employ that for realsies in a situation with the cops. I'm serious. Yes. Just put your hands up and just say, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. And just keep saying that. And if everybody does that, we'll start seeing if there's any change in all of this. And it also demonstrates like how ridiculous it is that you have to feel like that.
Yes.
You know, it's the same to me as opting out of the pat down, opting out of going through that silly machine for TSA and taking a pat down. So everybody else can look at you and say, my God, this is absurd.
Right. Do you take a pat down every time?
I used to. I did. But then I was like, I don't want these creeps touching me.
Right.
So that's where it becomes a real problem because I don't agree that I should have to do any of this shit. So now I'm defiant with my choices of clothing. I usually either wear my Obey t-shirt or my 1984 t-shirt.
Oh, they must love you.
I don't think anybody at TSA has any idea but that I'm being subtly obnoxious to them.
I had one TSA agent in Washington, D.C. back when I had a mohawk ask me if I was a skinhead.
Well, I think the last time I did the pat down, wasn't it when we were in Charlotte? Weren't you there? Was it or Durham? And I went and did that. I refused, and they did the whole swabbing you and all that garbage.
I remember that.
And then the moron contaminated it after she had swabbed me all around, and then she was asking me about my diet and exercise routine.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is incredibly invasive. I was like, just don't eat much. This is the trick, sweetheart. Like, and you weigh 350, so you'll drop it like crazy. But so she did all the swabbing of me, and I was worried because you never know. I mean, they say that there are nitrates in bacon, and that can set off alarms that you have explosive on you. And
Jesus. So
she did all that, and then was like, "Oh, oops! I took off my gloves too soon, so I contaminated it. We'll just have to do that again." Like, oh. So it's like I trust the machine to be a little bit more competent than the human beings that are working at the TSA.
And you know, let's talk about the TSA for a second. You have all of these liberals out there when it comes to mass shootings talking about how we have to do something. We have to do something. And if you say, well, you know, no, we really, what you're proposing really isn't going to help. No, we have to do something. Well, that whole we have to do something mentality gave us the TSA.
Yes.
And the TSA is nothing but security theater is what it is. And it's ridiculous that you have to jump through. They'll do what they did to you to a 104-year-old woman in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't use common sense.
No, and what do they have, a 90% fail rate too, or even in excess of that perhaps? Yes. I think the number might even be higher of weapons getting through and all kinds of, I mean, it's so absurd. It is theater.
I've had, on 3 different occasions, I have a blue snowball mic, which is a USB mic with a little stand, and it's the size of a softball. Just imagine a softball on a mic stand, and that's what a blue snowball mic, about the size of, like I said, a softball. That's what it is. And on 3 different occasions, I've been stopped by TSA as they're scanning my bag, and I already know what's coming. They'll point at me and say, "Is this your bag?" "Yes." "What is?" I say, "It's a microphone." "Oh, okay." And then they'll take it out, they'll look at it, they'll scan the bag again. Meanwhile, I had a friend leave Logan Airport, fly down to Houston, Texas for a conference, and we're sitting there having a beer, and she reaches in her purse and she's like, "Holy shit." I'm like, "What?" And she pulled out like a Paul Hogan knife that had to have been about 8 inches long. She's like, "Oh my God, this was in my purse." And I went through TSA, got all the way down here. It's like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and you're saying it's not even like a porcelain knife, which they're worried about because they can't be detected by metal detectors. You're talking about a straight up metal blade.
Yeah, metal blade out of Logan Airport of all places.
Sure, why not?
Unreal.
Huh. No, we can't even get rid of them.
No, and we never will. And then they'll have the balls, to do what you're seeing in Detroit with the teachers, where they'll just call in. A lot of them will call in sick, shut down the schools. They're doing these slowdowns because of supposed budget cuts. Well, I've never seen a budget cut in DC, but whatever. Okay, we'll just pretend that their budget's being cut. So now you're having airlines having to put out cots because there's a 3-hour wait and people miss their flights because TSA is too slow. It's insane. And we're stuck with them.
Yeah, and people keep putting up with it.
They should be in charge of our healthcare, Tracy.
Well, they are.
They should be. Single payer, baby. They'll do such a good job. Just look at TSA and look at the Metro in D.C. and the Philadelphia mass transit system.
God. All right. Well, this time next week,
yeah,
we will be
drunk
with people who agree with us. I don't know. It'll only be
it'll only be noon,
1 p.m. ish.
Yeah. Buzzed.
Yeah. Or still hungover, but
yeah, probably.
But engrossed in conversations about liberty and how much the TSA sucks. And I'm sure we're going to learn that there's other stuff that sucks that we don't even know about yet.
It is the best conference money can buy, FreedomFest, Las Vegas. And I had a friend hit me up this week, a listener saying, I want to go, and I sent the link. It's a pricey conference. I
think CPAC's about the same rate, isn't it?
Oh no, I think it's nearly double to go to Freedom Fest than it is to.
Well, but if you're not staying, I mean, if you count in hotels and everything like that, I bet it's a wash.
You're absolutely right.
Because the Gaylord is what, $3-something a night? Oh
gosh, it's $329 a night to stay at the Gaylord.
Yeah, and you get to stay at Planet Hollywood for the group rate of $109. Yeah. I know. So you had to be the master couponer.
Well, I'm telling you,
saved a whole $6.75.
I'm telling you, last year it was $180, $190 a night to stay at Planet Hollywood, so, at the Freedom Fest rate. So I didn't even bother looking, and so I got a room at Paris next door for $109 a night. I thought I was doing great, and then $102 a night because
yes. But I thought it was like $102.25 because for some reason I had $6.75 of savings in my head.
Probably true.
But you do love those cheap slots, so that's a lot of cheap slots. It's $75.
Where did I get that? I don't do penny slots. I don't know where this is coming from.
Oh, I don't know, but now that I know that it upsets you, I'm just going to keep saying it.
Oh, no, I really don't care. I'm just wondering where this is all coming from because I barely got to gamble last year. I tried gambling once at Ellis Island, and a bunch of you guys were I let you guys party in my room, and you locked yourselves out of the room and called
on
me
the balcony.
On the balcony. So I had to get you guys out of off the balcony, and at that point I was like, oh, screw it, I'm not going back to the casino. So I went to bed, and so I barely got to gamble at all while I was out there last time.
My heart breaks for you.
I got to do a better job of gambling this time around.
Okay.
It's got to happen. I got to go down. I wish I could drag you guys down to
Old Vegas. I know.
Old Vegas, but the Cosmopolitan's not down there.
No. It's just so far away, too. And I know you think that it's not.
5 minutes.
It's not 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
It's a good 25-minute ride.
Oh.
Yes, it is.
That's like 6 minutes.
You're such a liar. You couldn't even get from Planet Hollywood to Paris in a car in 6 minutes.
Come on now. What kind of, maybe...
I drove around there for 3.5 months, figures. I know what I'm talking about.
It's like 10 minutes. 12 tops. Maybe 15. Possibly 20. But it's worth it. It's worth it to be able to go to the Golden Gate Casino.
I've been down there. It's not that worth it.
Those are my people.
I know. I don't know. Your people are pretty much everywhere there.
No. I do feel. Look, it's clear to people who know me that I really, for the most part, don't give a shit what people think of me.
Mm-hmm.
Based mostly on my appearance when I go places. But even when I'm like walking through Wynn or Bellagio or sitting underneath this beautiful chandelier at the Cosmopolitan bar, and I'm wearing a wrinkled Harley t-shirt, and everyone else is dressed to the nines. And I'm like, maybe is O'Shea's open?
So are you bringing a nice outfit this year? Is that what you're trying to say?
I would have to, because I'm still fat, so I'd have to buy fat clothes, like nice clothes. And I don't even know honestly, I don't know how to dress. Oh, you're going to dress up a little bit. It's either, okay, wear a suit. I'm not going to do that. Or dress down and wear my usual Harley t-shirt and shorts. I mean, I don't know, like...
you could wear a golf shirt.
Are pleated pants still in, Tracy?
They were never in.
Pleated pants? Yeah, but pleated pants are good for fat guys. Fat guys and pleated pants. I think it's actually, in some states, in, like, say, Kentucky, for instance, a law that fat guys, if they're dressing up, have to wear pleated pants.
Okay,
fair
enough.
I'm not mistaken. But I don't...
But I mean, just wear what you would wear if you were going golfing.
A Harley t-shirt and shorts.
No, they don't let you on a golf course in a t-shirt.
Unless you go to a fancy golf course, then I would have to wear a golf.
They let you golf in t-shirts in the Midwest?
Sure, absolutely.
That's horrific. I mean, hell, I'm not even allowed to wear a skirt that's more than a scorecard length above the knee.
What? Where
those are like the official rules. I know they do it differently with the LPGA Tour because they want them on television in short skirts, but them's the rules.
Well, listen, I'm not golfing at your country club.
Okay.
I'm golfing at a public golf course, and public golf courses, for the most part, especially if you're spending less than $50 for 18 in a cart, you can wear a t-shirt. Now, there are, when you start getting, to the nicer golf clubs, yes, I'm fully aware, because I've been golfing since I was 14 years old, that you have to wear a collared shirt. And in those situations, I do have a collared shirt that I would wear to the golf course. But But that's all you need to bring one of those. And then if you feel like fancying up one night, because everybody else is, then you have something to wear. But then I have to buy, pants.
No, you could still wear your ratty pants.
Well,
it just looks like you tried a little bit.
I'm hurt now. You're telling me my button-down Harley shirt that everyone thinks is a Marine?
No, I actually like that shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Have I ever said to you in all the years that we've gone to these things together, I'm embarrassed to be seen with you in that outfit?
No, but I just figured you just don't give a shit.
I really don't.
How I look.
I don't care. You don't reflect upon me.
Exactly. So I never thought to myself, okay, she's really disgusted by, embarrassed to be next to me because of how I am dressed, because I just figure you don't give a shit.
Yeah, this is true.
There you go. But, I do have, I don't know if I used to wear, I had these 2 bowling shirts that say Fingers Malloy on them.
Oh.
That I used to wear. And so now I think about it, that was 30 pounds ago.
Well, you should definitely try to break those out, because you could look like a member of the Big Bad Voodoo Daddies.
Oh, there you go. It's very exciting. I'm very excited that Big Bad Voodoo Daddy will be there. Unfortunately, it's not New Year's Eve, because that's the only time where I really like, swing music. Yeah. Because it's not 1997 anymore. Right,
but you could just pretend it's New Year's.
I guess. There should be a New Year's Eve themed casino in Las Vegas.
I'm surprised that there isn't.
I mean, if they can have a Detroit-themed casino, for crying out loud.
Right, we'll just have a bar that's themed New Year's Eve. So just every night balloons drop or something like that.
How does New York not have that?
I don't know. We should go talk to the management over there.
Right?
Yeah. We'll put that on our list of things that we won't do while we're in Vegas. Like go to the pool, which always sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I was looking at, it's going to be like 110.
Yeah, I saw that.
114.
I would not subject anyone to having to see me in a, I guess guys, Midwesterners are supposed to call them swim trunks.
Oh.
Swim trunks.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine the other day called them swim trunks. I was like, is this 1958?
Yeah. Was it because the waist is comparable to the diameter of like an oak tree or something?
I don't know, I guess, but I would not want anyone to see me in swim trunks because I'm 50 pounds overweight and there are parts of my chest and belly that haven't seen the sun since the Clinton administration. Oh. So
I think at a pool in Las Vegas, you would probably be in good company.
It's probably true. Yeah, and it's not like I have. One time I hung out at a pool. No, actually twice now I think about it. One time I hung out at a pool at what's the name of that crappy Excalibur?
Yes.
And I was fine there because it's like their families and stuff because they got that like medieval arcade, you know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so there are a lot of kids. It's like the nicer Circus. Okay. You know, because families go to Circus, and that's a complete toilet. But they you know, Excalibur has some family friendly stuff there, so there were a lot of kids there. But then the other time I went swimming in Vegas was at the Venetian.
Oh.
Yeah, and you know, that's like a half a step down from going to the Hard Rock Cafe pool. I mean, there's beautiful people everywhere that, you know, maybe ate 4 days ago. My pasty fat ass is walking around going, where's the pool? You know? So you're right. It always sounds like a good idea when you're at home. Oh, I should probably pack my swim trunks. But once you get to Vegas, it's like, I don't want to spend 4 hours by the pool being reminded that I'm a fat ass.
Well, it's also brutally hot, and there are better things for us to be doing with our time. Like, there's so many cool panels that I want to see.
Yeah. Well, I've been to, you know, it's actually enjoyable if you are not completely hungover to go to the pool at like 10 o'clock in the morning when it's still in the low 90s. You know? But, you know, going into the pool like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon when they could fry an egg on your forehead, it's just not enjoyable. And then trying to buy drinks.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to sneak it out there.
Yeah, you got to sneak it out there because who wants to carry money or your ID out to the pool? You know, you got to worry about, you know what, nobody will see it if I wrap it in my towel. Well, everybody knows you wrap your crap in your towel, so if you're a thief, the first thing you're going to do is pick up someone's towel and shake it. So that's not enjoyable. That's not enjoyable either, so it's just pool is just a bad idea.
Yeah.
Plus, drunks are peeing in it anyway.
Oh, sure. You'll get that at any pool.
Yeah. You don't play blackjack, do you?
Yes.
I'm telling you.
I don't gamble, though. I'll play it on my phone. I like the $2 table, but only if it's all populated by people that I know, so no one's yelling at me because I'm screwing up their game.
Yeah, if we could get like, you know, 3 or 4 of our friends and we all sit down at a table, a $2 table, that could be some fun.
Yeah, I'll waste $20, and then that's it. I'm out. So I can play 10 hands.
You're not planning on winning at all?
No, last year I got stuck like playing craps for somebody else at 3 a.m. because they didn't understand how it works, and I kind of have a vague memory of it. That's a fun game.
Craps,
yeah.
People if you were looking for the people who are having the most fun on a casino floor, it's either at the sports book or at the craps table. Those are the 2 areas where you're hearing people scream and laugh and high five and but one casino here in Indiana, I'm not a big blackjack player for the same reason that you just brought up earlier. I like to drink while I'm gambling, and once I know basic strategy, but once I have 3 or 4 drinks in me, I'll start making some mistakes, you know, and I don't need some jerk on the other side of the table getting all huffy because they never keep track of when you screw up and they win.
Yeah.
It's only when you screw up and they lose.
Sure.
That's what they harp on. So, but there was this one time I was at a casino all by myself in on the eastern side of Indiana, and I was having awful luck at the poker machines. So, and I was 3 sheets to the wind, so I just started playing blackjack. I ended up walking away almost $700 ahead on black, and I'm not I only bring maybe $120 to gamble. I'm not somebody that's going to walk in with $500 to blow. But I thought I was going to have a couple of drinks and then, have some Cokes and leave at 9 o'clock. And I started playing. All of a sudden it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I won like $700. I ended up staying the night at the hotel because I had drank too much. But that's the most fun I ever had playing blackjack. So it's either I've got to be really, really drunk and not care what that person says at the other end of the table, or I'm just going to gamble without drinking, which is not fun at all.
No. Well, you think you're going to make it to any of the panels or the other assorted sessions this year?
Well, last year when we went to FreedomFest, I had no obligation to cover the conference. I just showed up. I never made any promises of things that I would do. But this year, to get a media pass, you have to interview a few folks and cover the conference. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't see myself being out until 5 o'clock in the morning, and then sleeping in until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm gonna have to go to this conference and.
Oh, poor baby.
Right?
There's terrible. Some fun stuff.
No, I was telling someone the other day, I got more out of Freedom Fest last year, and I only spent a third of my time at Freedom Fest last year. Seeing a third of the conference last year at Freedom Fest, I got more out of that than all the CPACs put together.
Mm-hmm.
It's that good. Between the film festival, the panels are outstanding. They're thought-provoking, which you don't... It's, for the most part, CPAC. It's just everyone preaching to the choir.
Yeah. They have a lot more debating going on.
Yeah.
Which I really dig.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to talk about? Do we have anything else to talk about?
I don't really think so. I mean, we covered Hillary. We covered Dallas. We've covered Freedom Fest.
Oh, there is one more thing that I think we should discuss briefly.
Okay.
And it's, where's that story? Is it Jill Stein?
Oh, yes.
Jill Stein of the Green Party, who's, it looks like, is going to be the nominee for the Green Party, threw out there this week that she would like to have Bernie Sanders take over the top of the ticket at the Green Party there, which, I mean, you talk about game-changing.
Oh, it would be amazing.
It's at this point, you're seeing Gary Johnson taking some votes really away from it. He's not taking from the polls I've seen more votes from Trump than Clinton. It seems to be pretty even.
Yeah, that's my read on it too. It's almost 50-50.
But if Bernie jumps in, I don't see Bernie taking many Trump voters. I could be wrong. It's going to be taking Hildo's voters away from her.
Yeah, and this is just going to be one more bit of proof that he's not a serious revolutionary.
Yeah.
When he says no. Because he's going to say no.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to put that article, which was a Guardian article, right?
Yes.
Originally, but it looks like...
I ended up pulling a piece from...
I can't tell what the hell site it is. It's like a... It's irrelevant.
International Business Times.
Yes.
That's where I got the piece.
was first in the Guardian.
Yeah.
Anyway, I try to get that in front of as many Bernie bots as possible because they've got to put pressure on the old man, and then he will dash their hopes once again, and they won't vote for Hillary.
I mean, what the hell? The man is 74 years old. What's he afraid of?
I have no clue. I mean, I think from his perspective, though, he wants allegedly more than anything for Trump not to win.
Yeah.
So even his little demented brain can put together that if he runs on the Green Party ticket, he steals from Hillary and therefore kneecaps her in the general and Trump wins.
Oh, why can't that happen?
Oh, because he's not a serious revolutionary. If he really cared about his BS ideas, he would go all in. Especially because you said he's 74 years old.
And let's face it, for the most part, I mean, the Democratic Party has moved left, but
oh yeah,
his ideas still, to me, it's more in the wheelhouse of the Green Party than the Democratic Party.
Oh,
I mean, they're getting
absolutely.
closer and closer. So you would think if he were a true revolutionary, like you said, he should go to the Green Party and hope to grow the Green Party. But he's not going to do it.
No, because I think if they hit, I think the deal with third parties is if you hit 5% in the general election, if you can get 5% of the vote, then the next election cycle you get federal funding.
Yeah. This is an opportunity for, and this is the same for the libertarians. If you're forward thinking to look, 4, 8, 12 years down the road, this is the election where you can really start chipping away at the two major parties. Bernie, if he were a true revolutionary, he should go to the Green Party.
100%. And this is what you got to get in the Bernie bot's head. This is where you got to go. So even if he doesn't take the spot on the ticket, maybe they still go to the Green Party because now it's on their radar.
I just am floored. The man is 74. What are you worried about your political future? I mean, really?
Yeah,
74?
I mean, he's been in different offices long enough to probably have accrued multiple pensions.
Yeah.
So he could just retire. So, but I mean, the Green Party's platform is his platform.
Yeah.
So if we go fight the Democrats, I mean, now Hillary's adopted the forgiveness of some college debt, I believe.
Yeah,
free college for anybody if your family makes less than $125,000, which just means the poor are going to be subsidizing the rich. I can't remember what else they've decided to pick up. I don't know if they've gone with the $15 minimum wage nationally or not, but I wouldn't. I think they said no to that. But we'll see what happens coming out of the convention. But I mean, Jill Stein's positions are nutty. Like the country will run on all renewable energy by 2030. Federal minimum wage of $15. And she said free college for everybody. And I believe it was that she said they would pay for that with quantitative easing. So they're just going to have the Fed print a bunch of money and hand that money over to colleges, and that'll just be fine. So we can just... why anybody has to ever work again if that's how we pay for stuff? It's beyond me, Jill. Just crank it up and send everybody a suitcase of cash every year. That's all it takes. Yeah, but I would love to see her on the national debate stage too, so everybody can be exposed to how just how kooky the far left is.
But unfortunately, it seems more and more that many Americans are starting to embrace these ideas. I mean, I know of friends of mine, that are full Bernie bots that think that, oh yeah, college should be free.
Sure.
It's like, okay.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's just like, what should you have to pay for? That's the question that I ask these people. Name something that you should have to pay for. I don't know. Because you don't think we should have to pay for doctor's visits or surgeries or medications or...
Well, food's next.
Oh, well, I mean, we already have people that don't have to pay for their own food. What do you think a food stamp program is?
Absolutely, but it's not fair that only certain members of our society, they don't pay for food. No one should have to pay for food, Tracy.
No one should have to pay for food or housing or anything. You have rights to all these things.
That's right. I believe one of the proposals that she put out there too is free Wi-Fi for everyone.
Oh, that's something that they've been pushing for a long time. And I remember maybe it was a year or two ago, one of my friends who's a Bernie bot now shared some article like celebrating that rural Minnesota was going to have Wi-Fi. Yay. As if they care about the people that live out there.
Right.
But so I read it, right? Because I know that routinely people share crap on social media and they don't read anything beyond the headline. Mm-hmm. So I read it and I go back to him and I said, because I think he said in the celebratory little post that he wrote about the link that he didn't read, yes, screw Comcast. So I go and read it. Comcast got the contract from the feds to put it, or from the state, to lay all the line. I was like, screw them. Yeah, screw you. They're getting paid. You don't think this is how this all works? This is what we talk about when we talk about cronyism.
Yeah.
And what that is a government enforced and granted monopoly.
Comcast
and
it's is just all for it. Like, you're right. Will you pay for it?
Yeah, you're right. We'll get right on top of that. Where's our check? And it's silly to be laying this cable anymore because what are we, maybe 10 years out from just having Wi-Fi balloons or whatever they're doing? Like I've seen little beacons that they can put on the top of buildings in cities that echo a signal. And I mean, we're going to go
we have killer robots now. So
yeah, killer bomb throwers. I love it. I want a bomb throwing robot. But see, and one more point about Dallas that I have to make, because I'm going to make this anytime one of these things happens. When the left comes at us about guns and says, what do you think? Like, you can beat the government? Hi. One man with, we don't know how many guns right now, was able to shut down the entire city of Dallas.
Yeah.
Don't tell me we couldn't beat the federal government if it came to that.
From CBS News, a law enforcement source told CBS News that the shooter had a SKS semi-automatic assault rifle and a handgun.
Okay.
I'm trying to... Okay. Let's see here. Where's the description? The SKS has a non-removable 10-round magazine.
What?
That doesn't make any sense.
So it's just part of the gun and you just reload the magazine without removing it?
He must have done some sort of
modification
to it.
Well, either that. I mean, it sounds like he had time. It took them hours to stop him.
Yeah.
So who knows if you have to manually reload the magazine.
This isn't the story that I was hoping to pull up, but I read that, yeah, it's a 70-year-old rifle.
Yeah, it's like a World War II era Russian rifle.
So at this point, we're going to keep having this gun control debate.
Right, but any law
with a 70-year-old gun.
Right, and any law that they would have passed in the wake of the Orlando shooting would probably not even have gone into effect, and if it had, it wouldn't be enforced. And the only way to do it, to have stopped this, would be full confiscation.
Right.
And there's no way that they can do that, number one, and number two, do it that quickly to have prevented this.
Exactly.
And I'm going to say this again, a 3-year-old with a credit card could walk up to a gasoline tank and fill up whatever container they so desired. No one pays attention in gas stations. Let's get real. Like, the only place that it wouldn't happen is this awful state where I am, where you can't pump your own gas, New Jersey or Oregon. Nobody's IDing you when you go buy gasoline.
Right.
Nobody's freaking out about that. I mean, sure, now somebody's going to do something with a gas can one of these days, and we're going to have a national conversation about gasoline safety. And they'll put, fingerprints.
We already had one, it wasn't even a conversation. The EPA just came out and put on a whole new sort of, whole new regulations on gas cans. Now they suck, the new gas cans. There's almost like a black market for gas cans made before the new EPA regulations.
Oh yeah, right.
But
I remember that.
Yeah.
But nothing to stop you from filling up those crappy gas cans.
That's right.
I mean, I don't even think that's against the law for anybody under 16 to go buy gas.
No, of course not. I mean,
So
you got plenty of kids out there that are mowing. Well, at least there used to be kids that would go and mow lawns for some extra cash. I don't know if kids, under the age of 18 work anymore. I'm not sure. That may be a thing of the past.
Yeah, I haven't noticed. I'll have to visit the boardwalk shops and start asking people how old they are.
I mean, I know when I was younger, I, would mow lawns for cash when I was, 15, 16 years old. I'd shovel snow. Mm-hmm. I think in the 15 years I've lived in Indianapolis, maybe on 2 occasions I had a kid knock on my door asking if I wanted my driveway shoveled. And I've never had any kids knocking on the door asking if I wanted my lawn to be mowed.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, because there are a ton of kids in this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff just doesn't happen anymore. No lemonade stands here either.
No.
Well, what do you think?
I think we're good.
Okay. After we take a little break here, the communication director for FreedomWorks, Jason Pye, will join us to talk about civil asset forfeiture and other criminal justice system reforms. So we'll talk to Jason right after this. And we're back, and we're joined by Jason Pye, the Director of Communications over at FreedomWorks. Jason, how are you, sir?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. For those of our listeners who don't know what FreedomWorks is, what is your organization, and what do you do?
So FreedomWorks is a grassroots service center to to about 5.7 million freedom-loving activists across the country. We educate and train them and mobilize them on issues related to limited government, free markets, and individual liberty.
And one of the issues that you guys have been tackling over at FreedomWorks recently is criminal justice reform. Talk a little bit about that, because that's a huge issue, and really it's a big umbrella. Talk about some of the reforms that you're looking to push, through Congress.
Sure, but first let me say FreedomWorks we're a partner organization in the U.S. Justice Action Network and the Coalition for Public Safety. We have joined 3 other conservative organizations and then 4 progressive organizations to come together and focus on state and federal criminal justice reforms. This includes sentencing reforms like creating safety valves or expanding safety valves at the state and federal levels. These are exceptions to mandatory minimum sentences. Corrections reform, which involves rehabilitative programming in state and federal prisons, and then also reentry reforms that would guide an offender's path when they leave the prison walls to becoming tax-paying productive citizens and productive members of society. So those are the core principles of what we're doing on the criminal justice side. And there's also civil asset forfeiture reform, which civil asset forfeiture is the process by which the government can seize your property, subject it to forfeiture based on a very low evidentiary standard, and permanently take it. And we are working. We've actually had some successes on that already at the state level. We're working on some federal reforms right now. So that's just a brief overview, the kind of 30,000-foot view of what we've been working on this issue for probably the last 18 months.
Let's talk a little bit about civil asset forfeiture. There was a story that came out recently about the state of Oklahoma and some of the things that are going on there that I'm sure you're familiar with. Can you talk a little bit about what they're doing in Oklahoma and what people should be doing to try to push back against it?
Well, recently there was a story that law enforcement's using these card readers. When they pull someone over, they can swipe the card and take any money that's on the card without any sort of due process or procedure at all, and just to seize it, take it, and move on. Thankfully, some of the backlash from that story, the governor has suspended the program, and it's subsided for now. But in states like Oklahoma, Oklahoma has some of the worst civil asset forfeiture laws in the country, and there are 36 states, I believe, that have this horribly low evidentiary standard. And I don't want to get too much into detail and in the weeds on this, but basically what we call preponderance of the evidence, a 51% likelihood that that what the government claims to be true is actually true, and that's far below what what's required for a criminal conviction. So that's something that we want to fix. There's been legislation introduced in Oklahoma by State Senator Kyle Loveless to reform Oklahoma's civil asset forfeiture laws. Unfortunately, law enforcement's fighting us on this, and one thing I'll say as a son of a police officer, I have the utmost respect for law enforcement. But this is a situation where lawmakers gave, this is not just limited to Oklahoma. It's limited. It's in terms of other states and the federal government with their horrible forfeiture laws. But lawmakers created this problem, in which lawmakers have to fix it. We have to protect private property rights. We have to restore due process, because in forfeiture cases, the burden of proof falls on the property owner, not the government, which is turning justice on its head. And we have to restore that respect for private property rights and that cornerstone principle of due process and the rule of law. And hopefully we'll have success in the upcoming legislative sessions early next year in states like Oklahoma and further reforms in states like Michigan. And we're still working on legislation in Ohio and Pennsylvania right now. So hopefully we can create these situations where we improve property rights protections, we improve due process protections.
Now, the argument for civil asset forfeiture back in the day was, well, we're just going to be taking this property from drug dealers.
Right.
This has been abused by many states, has it not?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's not just being abused by states, it's also being abused under federal law. But, I think last year there was a story that came out in the Washington Post that noted that the value of all seizures at the federal level exceeded the total monies or total value of property and money stolen during burglaries last year. It's like $5 billion. So clearly it's a problem. The issue here that some of the horror stories we've heard, and I think when you were in our office a couple of weeks ago, we told some of those horror stories, like this young man, Joseph Rivers from Michigan. He was traveling from Dearborn, Michigan to California to fulfill a lifelong dream of becoming involved in the music industry. So he took an Amtrak train from Dearborn, made it all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, when DEA agents boarded the train, and they asked him if they could search through his bags, and thinking that he had nothing to hide, he said that's fine. They found $16,000 in cash, money he had legally obtained through, I think, his mother's retirement, through just life savings, working jobs, contributions from his family, things like that. And they took it. And when law enforcement was asked about it, when the DEA was asked about it later, and asked about why didn't they charge the guy with a crime if he supposedly did something wrong, he was never charged. He was never arrested, never convicted. They just took his money, and they said it's not that we have to charge him with a crime. It's the money is presumed to be guilty. The money is presumed to be guilty. Let me read one more time. The money, an inanimate object, is presumed to be guilty. And that's what's kind of this weird, it's a legal fiction that property, again, inanimate objects, can't commit a crime. But that's the fallacies of forfeiture. And it unfortunately, that's the way it is. And it's the war on drugs has created this beast, and we have to fix it. And I'm hoping that we'll have some success at the federal level this year. But going back to what law enforcement says it's there for, they say it's a valuable tool to fight crime. They say that it's necessary to fight the drug trade. So I don't remember this. I may have this story wrong in terms of all the details, but we have a blog post on FreedomWorks.org that explains it better than I can probably. But there are a couple different examples of law enforcement where they know drugs are going in. I think in Nashville, for example, going east towards the city, but they don't camp out going east. The police don't camp out going east towards the city. They camp out west, leaving the city, where the money is being trafficked out.
Of course,
supposedly being trafficked out. Why, if you're concerned about public safety, why aren't you going after the drugs?
Right.
And there's a similar situation in Florida on I-95 where they're allowing they don't camp out where the drugs are coming in. They camp out where the money's leaving. And it's just come on. I mean, that's not public safety. That's profit. That's a profit incentive. Because they can keep up to 100% of the proceeds from forfeitures.
Okay, and where does this money go for the most part?
Well, I mean, most law enforcement agencies do use it for legitimate purposes, but not always legitimate purposes. So some reinvest it into needed equipment that they can't afford in their budgets. But there are examples of law enforcement using the funds for questionable purposes. And we have a paper at FreedomWorks. It's called From High Seas to Highway Robbery. And we list off some examples. There's a sheriff in Georgia who bought a $90,000 Dodge Viper for the local police department's anti-drug program. It's not a cruiser. It's not a cruiser to go around and catch criminals. It's to show off.
Wow.
There's an example. We have this guy in Columbia County, Missouri. I think he's a police chief or sheriff. I can't remember which. But he called forfeiture proceeds pennies from heaven.
Oh, geez.
It gives you money that you want to be able to buy a nice toy. That's almost verbatim what he said. And then there are other examples like the Atlanta District Attorney Paul Howard, who used forfeiture proceeds to rent out a movie theater for his entire staff about 2-3 months before he gave them all 10 furlough days for the year because of a budget shortfall. He used the money to register a softball team. He used the money for personal security at his home. He used the money to buy tickets to go see CeeLo, which apparently is a legitimate expense. And then you also have situations in some states like Texas where the local sheriff or the sheriff's department bought a margarita machine, the Jimmy Buffett Margaritaville machine. Like, no joke, this actually happened. But sadly, he's not the only example of that. There are other examples as well. And then you have, there are numerous stories that we've seen of forfeiture proceeds being used to purchase tickets and pay for airfares and all this stuff for very swanky conferences in Las Vegas, for example, where I mean, come on, you're not really going. You're going to Vegas, man. I mean, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I get it, but like, come on. Right. And going back to Oklahoma, because you mentioned the card readers a minute ago, but going back to Oklahoma, you have a situation where there are examples of forfeiture proceeds being used to pay off student loans of assistant prosecuting attorneys.
Oh my goodness.
There was one guy who lived in a seized home for a couple of years, I believe, before it was finally caught. He lived this ADA, assistant district attorney, lived in a forfeited home.
That's unreal.
Yeah, rent free, by the way, rent free.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
I look at this and I think to myself, okay, if you're trying to reform the system, it must be very difficult because politicians do not want to look like they are soft on crime. How do you push back against that narrative that if you're trying to reform the system, if you're looking at, say, the prison system, and you're looking more to it as a real rehabilitation center than say, punishment, how do you push back against the narrative? Oh, well, geez, that sounds like you're just trying to be soft on crime.
Well, I think I had the privilege of interviewing 2 former federal prosecutors, U.S. attorneys, yesterday in FreedomWorks office. Brett Tolman, who was the U.S. attorney for Utah, and Matt Orwig, who was the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Texas. And both of them talk about federal reform, and they also focused heavy emphasis on state level reforms. And one of the things that we talked about, and one of the things that we always talk about when we discuss criminal justice reform, is Texas. In 2007, Texas was facing a $2 or $3 billion long-term funding need to build new prisons, expand existing prisons, and just for general renovations and expenses. So the chairman of the committee with jurisdiction went to the speaker. The chairman's name is Jerry Madden. He went to the speaker of the Texas House and said, we need this money. What should I do? And the speaker just looked at him and said, don't build new prisons. They cost too much. And so Texas instead decided to spend, rather than spend, and they had an immediate need of $520-something million. So rather than spend that money, and that $520-something million was just for that year. It was part of that long-term funding need. But rather than spend that money, they cut it in half and decided to invest in this kind of new way of approaching crime, a smarter way of approaching crime. They spent about $240 million on the creation of drug courts, where they can divert low-level nonviolent offenders into drug courts. People who have addiction problems are not really criminals. They have a health problem. They can divert these people into drug treatment programs. And then they use other monies to create rehabilitative programming in prisons, where they can reduce the risks of recidivism, which is the rearrest rate after 3 years of people who go into jail and come out of jail. And it's so looking almost 10 years now, looking back, it's been wildly successful. Texas's crime rate's at its lowest point since 1968. They've seen a 21% decline in crime. They've seen a 12% decline in prison population. They've seen a 9% drop in recidivism, the rearrest rate after 3 years. And I mean, again, the lowest crime rate since 1968. And they've saved $3 billion. I mean, so I point to Texas. And then I point to Georgia, that has also done this and has seen tremendous success. I had the privilege of interviewing Governor Nathan Deal recently about Georgia's reforms, and I asked him the very same question you just asked me, and he got emotional. He's like, "I've seen how this works. I've been to drug court graduations and seen these people leave the courts and go back into society and become successful." Other states have emulated it. There are between 27 and 32 states that have done some sort of criminal justice reform, or as we'd like to call it, justice reinvestment. And all of them have seen wild success. I'm not going to say everything is perfect. We could always do better, but we're seeing success. And among the states, I already mentioned Texas and Georgia, but South Carolina, Mississippi, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has actually gone, Governor Fallon, despite some disagreements with her on other policy, has done very well on this subject. Utah, they've done it. Governor Bruce Rauner, Illinois, he's made this a huge issue of his. Governor Rick Snyder in Michigan's working on it. So we're like I said, we're seeing success, and we hope that we'll bring those successes of the states to the federal level. And I think there hopefully is a window in which we can do it this year. If not, we'll carry it over into next year.
You can follow Jason on Twitter at Pye, P-Y-E. You can follow FreedomWorks on Twitter at FreedomWorks. Jason, if people want to find out more information on FreedomWorks and the work that you're doing regarding criminal justice reform, where can they find it?
So you can go to freedomworks.org/justice for all.
There you have it. Jason Pye. Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it, Fingers. Thanks, man.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember to subscribe on iTunes and leave us a 5-star rating while you're there. You can also find us on Stitcher, TuneIn, Facebook, EnoughAlreadyPodcast.com, and on Twitter @FingersMalloy and @Tracy L. Connors. See you next week.